My parents stood in the doorway of my childhood home, faces twisted with disgust, and told me I was no longer welcome at my own sister's wedding. "You're a toxic influence," my mother spat. "Mia deserves her perfect day without you ruining it." I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. This was the same sister I had helped raise, the same parents I had quietly paid bills for when Dad's business, the same family I had given 12 years of my life and most of my savings to. 3 days after they slammed that door in my face, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mom, Dad, even Mia crying, pleading, hysterical. They needed $38,000. Immediately, cash, no questions asked. They thought I would still come running. They had no idea I had already burned every bridge behind me, and that I was the one holding the match. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my family taught me the most painful lesson of my life, and how I made sure they would never forget it. I was always the reliable one, the quiet daughter, the one who got straight A's, worked 2 jobs in high school, and never complained when my parents poured every extra dollar into Mia. Mia was the sparkling one, 2 years younger than me, with our mother's smile and our father's charm. She could cry her way out of anything. When she wanted dance lessons, they appeared. When she wanted a new phone every year, it showed up. When she failed her first semester of college, my parents looked at me with expectant eyes. I was 23, fresh out of accounting school, already working at a small firm. I took out a private loan and covered Mia's tuition for 2 semesters. "Just until she gets back on her feet," Mom promised. That was the first of many, just until. Over the next 5 years, I paid for Mia's car repairs, her apartment deposits when she fought with roommates, even her designer bridesmaid dresses for other people's weddings. Every time I tried to set a boundary, my mother would sigh and say, "Blood is thicker than water, Sarah. Family helps family." I believed her. I met Alex when I was 26. He was kind, steady, and saw right through the family dynamic. "They're using you," he'd say gently. But I defended them. "They're my parents. Mia's my sister. This is what love looks like." 2 years into our relationship, Grandma passed away. She left me a modest inheritance, $65,000, in a trust that matured when I turned 28. My parents were furious it hadn't been split 3 ways. "Your grandmother was always closer to you," Dad muttered. But they smiled again when I used part of it to help with Dad's medical bills after his heart scare. By the time Mia got engaged to Tyler, a decent but unambitious guy from a wealthy family, I had already given them nearly $42,000 over the years. I still had $38,000 left in savings, my emergency fund, my future with Alex, the down payment we were dreaming about for our own house. The wedding planning started innocently enough. Mia asked me to be her maid of honor. I said yes immediately. I spent weekends helping pick flowers, tasting cakes, and quietly paying for things when Mia forgot her wallet. But the budget kept growing. Destination wedding elements, a $12,000 dress, a $4,000 photographer, open bar for 250 people. Every time I gently suggested scaling back, Mom would pull me aside. "Don't be selfish, Sarah. This is your sister's big day." I noticed the little things I had ignored for years. How Mom only called when she needed something. How Dad's proud smile was always for Mia's Instagram posts, never for my promotion at work. How Mia never once asked how I was doing, only what I could contribute. Still, I loved them. I told myself love meant sacrifice. The final straw came during the rehearsal dinner planning. Mia wanted a $38,000 total budget. They were $22,000 short. Mom looked straight at me across the kitchen table and said, "Sarah, you still have that inheritance money. It's only right." I finally said no. I told them I couldn't keep funding a wedding that was already twice what Alex and I could afford for our own future. I suggested they scale back or ask Tyler's parents for more. The room went silent. Mia started crying. Mom called me jealous and bitter. Dad said I had always resented my sister's happiness. They told me I was no longer part of the bridal party. Then, 2 days before the wedding, they banned me entirely. I sat in my car outside the house for 20 minutes after they told me, tears streaming down my face. Alex held my hand and didn't say I told you so. He just whispered, "You deserve better than this." I tried one last time. I texted Mia, "I love you. I just can't keep doing this." Her reply was brutal. "You've always been jealous of me. Mom and Dad are right. Don't come. You'll ruin everything." The day of the wedding, I drove past the venue anyway. I saw the fairy lights, the luxury cars, my mother in the dress I had helped pay for. I parked down the street and cried until I couldn't breathe. That night, while they were dancing and posting perfect photos, I received a strange message from Grandma's old lawyer. He asked if I had received the final trust documents. I told him I had. He replied, confused, "That's odd. Your mother requested several changes to the disbursement last month. She said you authorized it." My blood ran cold. I drove to the lawyer's office first thing Monday morning. What I learned shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. My mother had tried to access the remaining $38,000 by forging my signature on paperwork. The lawyer had blocked it because the signatures didn't match, but he had still sent my parents official notice that the money existed and would be released to me on my birthday, which had passed 2 weeks earlier. They knew exactly how much I had. They had been counting on it for the final wedding payments. When I refused, they chose to humiliate me instead of telling the truth. I sat in my apartment that night, screenshots open on my laptop, and felt something inside me break. Not just sadness, rage. Clean, cold, clarifying rage. The next 48 hours were the darkest of my life. I barely ate. I called in sick to work. Alex stayed with me, holding me while I sobbed. I kept replaying every sacrifice, every time I chose them over myself. Every birthday where Mia got the bigger gift. Every time Mom said, "Sarah's strong, she can handle it." I felt stupid. Worthless, unlovable, but in the middle of that pain, something shifted. I started looking at old bank statements. Transfer after transfer. Loans I had co-signed for Mia that she never paid. Credit cards in my name that somehow had balances. They hadn't just taken advantage of my love. They had exploited it for years. By the third day, the calls started. First Mom, voice sweet and trembling, "Sarah, honey, there's been a misunderstanding with the vendors. We need help with $38,000 or we'll lose all the deposits. You're our only hope." Then Dad, angry and desperate, "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" Finally Mia, full ugly crying. "Tyler's parents are furious. They're threatening to pull out. Sarah, please, I'm your sister." I listened to every message. I saved every voicemail, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to fix it. I spent that entire day making calls, first to the lawyer, then to a forensic accountant friend, then to Alex, who looked at me with quiet pride when I told him my plan. I wasn't going to scream or make a scene. I was going to be strategic. I transferred the $38,000 into a new account they couldn't touch. I documented every single dollar I had ever given them over the years, totaling $64.00 when you included interest and co-signed loans. I prepared a calm, professional letter outlining everything, with evidence attached. I also reached out to a few key relatives who had quietly messaged me support after the wedding ban. I didn't badmouth my family. I simply shared the truth. The revenge wasn't loud. It was surgical. On day 4, I agreed to meet them at the house. They thought I was coming with a check. Instead, I walked in carrying a folder. Mom rushed toward me with open arms. I stepped back. "I'm not here to save you," I said quietly. "I'm here to say goodbye." I laid out the evidence, the forged documents, the financial trail, the years of manipulation. I told them I would not be paying a cent toward the wedding debt. I would also be requiring repayment of the cosign loans on a schedule I had drawn up with a lawyer. Mia screamed. Mom cried. Dad threatened to disown me. I looked at each of them and said the words I had practiced in the mirror. "You taught me that family helps family. But you never learned that family also respects family. I'm done being your safety net. From today forward, I choose me." I left them there, wedding vendors calling non-stop on their phones, the reality of their choices crashing down around them. Tyler's parents did pull partial funding. The wedding went ahead, but smaller, tense, and with visible cracks. Several relatives who had heard my side of the story quietly distanced themselves. My parents lost more than money that week. They lost the illusion that I would always be there to clean up their messes. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of the small house Alex and I bought together. The garden was modest but ours. My savings were recovering. My peace was complete. I heard through cousins that my parents are still struggling financially and that Mia's marriage has been rocky. They don't call me anymore. Sometimes I miss the fantasy of the family I thought I had. But I don't miss the version that existed. I learned that love without boundaries is just self-destruction. That blood doesn't give anyone the right to drain you dry. And that the strongest thing a woman can do is choose herself when everyone else chooses to take. If you're watching this and you're the reliable one in your family, I want you to hear me. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to build a life that isn't defined by how much you can give. The people who truly love you will never make you prove your worth by emptying your soul. I'm Sarah, and I finally chose me, and I've never been happier.